Greetings, Internet. So, let's see. Let's break this down. So, I just spent 4 hours recording some content and moving this process forward in this 17-hour long Angular review, only to discover after the recording is done that the audio was bunk. So, it seems oh wait, and then spent another hour, or was it 2 hours? 2 hours, yes, 2 hours, combing through OBS trying to figure out what the heck was going on and how did the audio get toasted. Seems like not completely sure just yet, but it seems like there's a cable issue, but I think I've got that resolved. But unfortunately, it means I've got to re-record that content, right? Because we can't have a 4 hour gap in content for this 17-hour marathon of an Angular review. So here we're going to do re-recording starting at hour 6. Let me transition on over here, starting at hour 6. And yeah, we're gonna push forward and get this content done. The actual time, I kind of misspoke a little bit. Well, not really, but kind of sort of. So let me bring up the timeline here. There we go. This is where we ended the last time, right down here at the beginning of HTTP client and RxJS. Now it's a good 1 hour dependency injection. All that audio got bunked, and everything after 601 here got bunked. So we're gonna restart from here to here again. These what's this? An hour, 2 hours? Yeah, we're gonna redo that, and yeah, that's where we are. So always test your audio before you begin, and even after you test it, retest it again. So there we go. Let's begin.
So at this point, your Angular has already completed one lifecycle check already. So in case you want to, let's say, assign some property here, you can actually go ahead and do that here after your change action has completed. Or you want to modify something, you want to modify some values, you want to call some function, you can actually go ahead and do that here. But remember, in dev mode, you will still get this error. So don't worry about it. This error is okay in case you get in dev mode, but if you are getting it in production mode, that's an issue. Yep. So this is it from after view unit and after view checked. Is it? No, there is more. So let's go ahead and talk about those. What else we can achieve using view child? Lifecycle looks. Let's do one more thing. How about dynamic components? So let's say I'll just comment this out. Now I want to render this rooms component, but dynamically. I don't want to do it in template. So I'll just copy some template here. So we have this div. Then we have ng template. I'll talk about what ng template is. And then we have h1 tag, welcome user. Let's remove this as well. So we have just an ng template with hashtag user and then ng template. So first, let's try to understand what ng template is. So ng template is kind of like uh, a tag. To understand it in like easy words. So ng template is a tag which will never render anything. So ng template itself won't render anything. So it's like it is not visible. But it can help us to render some other template. So what some other template can be? It can be another component. So let's try that out. Here, what we are going to do is we are going to dynamically load the rooms component using viewchild. So let's do that. So I'll say, okay, this is view child, and then I need the access. So let's view child and close this. Now, after this, I need the access to this particular ng template tag. So this hashtag user has some specifics. I'll just talk about it. So we can use this here, and then we can use one property called read, and which we can pass view container ref. I'll call it as VCR, view container ref, which is type of view container ref. It is going to give me some reference by the name, if you can guess. So it is saying, okay, it will give me some reference to what? Now let's talk about this user. So here, this hashtag user is something known as template reference. Once you define something with hash on any HTML tag, you can access that tag. So you can access that tag inside your TS file using viewchild. It's not only with ng template. I can access any HTML tag. I can even access div. I can access even input element. We'll talk about it. We'll see an example, right? To be sure that how it works. So here we are saying, give me the reference to this user tag, right? And this view container ref will actually help us to dynamically load a component. Let's do that.
Oh, I feel compelled to mention that um, although this current recording is going to be 2 hours, I did this originally. We did it twice, right? We watched him go through an hour long worth of content and then rewound it and coded along with it, right? And the second viewing of that same content. So doing that twice, therefore 4 hours, right? I'm not going to recode along again this time in this third recording to get the audio fixed. Because I'm just not going to rewind my code base, man. Okay. So here, let's show you this over here. Let's switch the screen real quick. So here we are. This is where we're going to stop once we get there, right? Because all this code is done already. But yeah, so hang in here. We're just gonna go through this again. Uh, this second half of LifeCycle hooks here, and I'm gonna stop talking. And we're just gonna play this video. All right.
That. So here I am going to first say it implements on init, and here I'll say this ng on init, and okay, so I'm getting some hint because I'm using some service from GitHub. So I'll write this code. So I'll say const component, as we want to, let's assign some value as well. Component ref is equals to, I can say this dot vcr dot. So there is a method. Okay. So you can use this dot view container ref dot create component, and then you can pass any component here directly. So I'll say, okay, actually I wanted to do is load rooms component, and let's import okay somehow. So it has rooms slash rooms dot component. So this is the file, and then we need rooms component here. So at this point of time, you will see your component will be loaded. So let's save this and see if our code is compiled. Yes, it is. Let's go to HTML and cannot read properties of undefined. What with it? Okay, sorry. So we just learned that whenever we use viewChild, the static property is false. So what we need to do is here I need to use after viewInit, and here we can access this ng after viewInit. And now we will get the instance of the tag and it should work now. So let's see, let's go to the browser and here it is. So you have your view which is loaded dynamically. You remember you didn't specify the rooms uh, component inside your template. Inside your template, you just have an ng template and you just gave a reference, a template reference, and then we loaded that component dynamically from our TypeScript file. So this is what you can achieve. You can just let's see the uh, HTML DOM here. You have HINV rooms, which is loaded inside this particular div, and this is it. This is how you can actually load a component dynamically, just a single line of code. And in case you want to actually modify some properties using component ref, so I can just do component ref and I can do instance dot and you can access any property. So let's try to access any of the property which we have available here. And I'll say number of rooms. It is 10, right? So let's try to change it. It is getting used somewhere. Yeah, here. So I'll say it is number of rooms is equals to 50. And let's run it and see the output here. And you have 50 here. So done. You have actually loaded a component dynamically. You changed a property as well. And this is what we achieved using viewchild. And we also learned about template ref. So let's try to actually access a div element using template reference. Let's see how we can do that. I'll just comment this out and we'll keep the code same here. Let's uncomment this. And here I'll create a div and I'll say hash um, any property name, let's say name. So we have this div with hashtag name. This name is actually template reference. Now I can access this inside my component using view child. I'll say view child, give the name. And now as I'm sure that, okay, this div is actually available inside my template and it doesn't contain any code which will delay or cause any issue. I'll say, okay, this is static true, right? So I'll say this is name and you can, of course, you need to give some type. So you can give a type called element ref because it's an HTML element. And now you comment and use on init and let's see ng on init. Oh, sorry, not at the rate. Ng on init and then I can say this dot name dot inner. Let's try to access any property. Okay, somehow IntelliSense is not working here, but should give me native element. Let's see. Let's do console.log. So first, let's see what this dot name gives us. It should give us an element. So let's see if it is compiled. Yes, it is compiled. And let's see here. Yep. We have native element ref, and yep. So native element is the property which we should be trying to access. So we have this dot native element, and then you can access any property. For example, I want to set in a text. I can say equals to uh, Hilton hotels, right? And then I will just remove this console.log, and let's see. And we have hello world. Is there any issue? You can see it here. So you have Hilton Hotel available here. Let's put an H1 tag so it's visible. Right now it is not. Or it's okay, right? So we add even it's available. So yeah, that's what we wanted to verify. So we have this Hilton Hotel available here. And what we did, we accessed an element. Remember, so earlier it was like what we have done so far using ViewChild. So first we actually accessed an component instance using ViewChild. That was our um, header component, right? So we actually accessed header component, created a new instance using TypeScript, using your TS file. We used ViewChild for that, then loaded it. Then we spoke about static property, what it does. Then we saw a second example where we used view container ref to dynamically load a component. That was the second example. Third example, what we did is we accessed an HTML element. We got the access of that HTML element using template reference, and then we assigned some value to that particular HTML element by using, of course, the uh, native property, right? So we used instance dot whatever property, not we used native. What was that property name? Yeah. So we use native element property dot the property which exists on HTML element. So here we know, okay, div has something called inner text, and we use that property to bind it. So these are three examples which we have seen using ViewChild, and we also saw that, okay, the instances will be available in case we are using static as false in after view init lifecycle hook. So most of the time after view init lifecycle hook is good for anything which you want to do after your view is initialized. And view checked is it's optional. I mean, you will probably there will be hardly some instances where you will find it useful, but you can do everything which you want to do after view is initialized inside ng after view init lifecycle hook. Now let's see one more example. I'll do one thing. So what I'm doing is I'm having multiple instances of this header component inside my rooms list. Let's see how it behaves. So we still have single uh, here. We still have only one instance which is available and which has this rooms view property. Rest doesn't. So here, let's try to understand. This view child property will always access the first instance which is available on your template. In case you want to access all the elements which is available on your component of type header component, you need to use view children. So name itself tells you what we are trying to achieve, right? So view child in case I have one instance, view children in case I have more than one instance, right? Child, children. So let's try to do use view children. And the same, the one difference which we have here is view children static property is by default false, and it's false. You cannot change it because it is saying, okay, you are going to have access multiple instances and it cannot be available during ng on init. So here I'll pass header component, and here I'll say this is header children component, and we have to just do one more thing. Now query list let me just write this code and then we'll talk about it. Let me see if query list is imported from the correct path. Okay, it's still not. Let's try to. Mhm. So we have this. Sorry. So we have this view children, and we are saying this is the property, and this is header children component. Children component, and we are saying this is type of query list of header component. What we are trying to do here. So let's see. Let's see. Mm, okay, looks like my laptop is consuming a lot of resources. Okay, so now here, so what we did is we used view children to create instance of header component, and then we named it as header children component, and which is type of query list of header component. Let's try to just to console.log and see what happens here. And we know that we cannot access it inside ng-on-int, as we said, that is like static is false by default. We cannot do anything here. So I'll set this dot header children component dot. Now you can see it says for each. Why it is saying for each? Because let's do console.log and then we'll see what it contains and then we'll talk about the properties it has. Okay. So you can see what it has. It's a query list. It has a property called dirty. It means dirty means there is no nothing has changed inside this particular component. Then it has first and it has last. This is first instance and last instance. So in case you have like multiple components of same type and now you want to do something different with first instance and last instance, you can do that. For example, let's say you have multiple rows. Like let's say you created a component and you want to render them as rows. You want to take first row and show them as header, take last row, show them as footer, and whatever is in between, you can actually treat it as your content. That's possible using first and last. You have also length property, which tells you how many results are there, and then you have underscore results property, which gives you all the result. So it means it is an array. So query list is something which has access to all properties which is available here. You can let's go ahead and see here, right? So I can just go ahead and say header child component dot last. Right? So I can access last component and then I can access the title property of last. So I'll say this is last title, just random string, right? And let's see the output. So it says, okay, this is your rooms view, which is first instance, which we have already changed using view child. And this is your last title, which we changed using the last property. In case you want to do something with each and every row, you can actually do it by using for each loop. And what else? What else? What else? And we'll see notify changes later. But yeah, I mean, this is like an array. So you will get all the methods, most of the methods, not all methods, which is available on your array. So you can see it has some There is something called reset, but it's not what we need. So we have find, filter, and you can also call destroy to destroy any component. Okay. And you can also get any component using index in case you want to. Here you have get method as well. So this is what you can do using header children component. This is really useful in case you want to create your own, uh, let's say, reusable component, or your component where you want to create your drop downs, right? Where your users can pass the list of records and you can display them as you want, not the user want, right? So these are some examples. Angular material uses header view children at multiple places. You can check out the code base to understand it more. So this is it from view child and view children. We also discuss about how you can use view child, how you can use view children, and the lifecycle looks as well. In previous video, we saw how we can use view child, and we also discussed about some scenarios where view child is useful, and ng after view unit lifecycle look hook as well. ng after view unit hook as well. Now in this video, we are going to talk about ng after content init. But as I said, we'll be going through the lifecycle as well as some of the concepts. So here we are talking about after content. So it has to do something with content. But what content we are talking about? Here we are going to talk about a really important topic called content projection. So let's go ahead and talk about content projection, and then we'll come to ng after content init and what it is and then how we can use it. So let's go back to the code base. And for this, what we will do is we will create a new component. So because we need to understand what content projection is. So I'm going to create few components and then let's see, we'll talk about the content projection. So first component which I will create is, let's call it as container. So this is a container component, and why content projection is useful. Let's talk about once we create this component. So let's say you have your application, right? But what you need is once you finalize your design system, you said, okay, my sidebar can be on left side, my footer can be on the lower side, my header will be on top of the page. But I don't want to actually give this functionality where user can decide. I mean, not the end user, but my developers. As a lead engineer, I want to actually take care of where the components will be rendered and in what sequence. This is where actually these are few scenarios where this is actually one scenario where content projection is useful. What else? So let's say you have created one component. As you said, components are, of course, your reusable HTML tags. So what we need is we want to give that reusable HTML tag, but what content should be placed inside that particular container or a particular component should be defined by user. Again, if I talk about user here, I'm talking about the developers. So your developers should be able to define that, okay, I want to put some, let's say H1 tag, or I want to put a break here, or I want to put a horizontal line here. That's something which is up to the developer. So these are two scenarios where content projection can be really useful. Let's go ahead and do that. So first, how we can achieve that. So to achieve the content projection, what you have to do is you have to place an HTML tag called ng content. So let's do that. I'll say ng content. Mhm. And this is what we have. So we have ng content, open, close. That's it. Nothing else. Let's take this component. Let's close this. So you might be wondering what is different here. I mean, we have been doing the same thing earlier as well, right? For example, rooms component, we have placed a room component, open and close, that's it. How this ng content is going to help us? So let's see the view. It is as it is. Now, let's try to put some HTML contents here. So what I'm going to do is I'll place an h1 tag. I'll say this is from ng content. Let's go ahead and see. And you can see you have this is from ng content available here, the content which we placed inside an HTML tag. And if you see this, I mean, of course, this is how it looks like hinv container and then this h1, which is replaced by this ng content which we have placed here. So it will not work with other tags. For example, if I try to do it here, for example, hinv rooms, we don't have any ng container here, so it doesn't know what to do with this. So let's go ahead and try this out and see. And you don't have anything here, right? So in rooms, you are not getting that particular h1 uh, content which we have placed. But here we are able to get it because we have placed an ng content. ng content knows that okay, so there will be some content which will be passed by the user. I mean, as a developer, I mean, you can be the same developer, right? You who is writing container and who is using that container. So this is what you can achieve using ng content, but of course, this is not it. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit more in detail. You can also do one more thing. As I said, you can provide the order in which you want to actually load your components. So let's say I can give or I can create a container component which has like your dashboard, header, footer, sidebar placed accordingly, right? But you don't want to actually do it by yourself. I mean, containers should not have anything. So containers should define, okay, where goes what, that's it. There isn't me. Let's say what you can do is that container component is, let's say, is your reusable component, and now you are going to use that reusable component across multiple applications. So what you have to do is you have to just create the component and you have to just place them. That's it. That's what you have to do as an user, I mean, as a developer. So let's create few components here. I'll, let's see what we can create. We can create an employee component. So of course, hotel will have employees. And we already have rooms, so we'll these are two. So let's say now what I want to do is I want to load, let's say, employees data first. Then I want to give an ng content where where developers can add whatever content they want to, and at the end I want to load rooms. So let's see how we can achieve using ng content. So in ng content you can pass a property called select. In select, you have to pass the HTML tag. Remember this. So first, what I want to do is I want to actually load employee. Okay, so this is where I'm going to place employee. Then there is an ng content, and at the end, what we want is we want to load rooms. So let's go back to rooms. Let's close this again. Take rooms, go to container, HTML, and let's replace this here. Now we are done with our container. Now let's go back to this main component.html. And now we have this container available here. So what I can do is I can place, so remember I'm placing rooms first, and let's put uh, in employee second, and let's save this. I can just format, and let's go back to our page. So this is how it looks like. So you can see You have hello world, then you have rooms view, and let's see here. I need to comment this out, otherwise rooms data will be like displayed twice. And let's yeah, so we it's compiled now, you can see. So let's open the container. You have employee first, then we have, this is from ng content because we placed an empty container. We are saying that okay, whatever doesn't match comes here. And then we have rooms, and we don't have the same sequence here. I mean, we don't have same sequence here. We are loading the rooms first, employees second, and then at the end ng content. Doesn't matter. I mean, because you have defined this, this is the sequence in which I want to actually load some content. And you have also defined these are the matching tags. So select, we are saying, okay, select this particular HTML tag or select this particular component, right? Which will be placed here. So this is how you can actually use containers. Now, what else? What else we
Mm-hmm.
can do? We are talking about ng after content init. Now, what is the content for a component? So for this particular component, if we talk
Uh-huh.
about container component, the content is something which will be loaded or which will be provided by the parent component. So that content also, whatever is loaded inside this container is the content. Now, your components, so my container component can only access this components in case it want to inside a lifecycle loop called ng after content init, because at that moment the component knows that my component, my contents are initialized. So who is giving the content? Right now it is parent component, like app component, which is giving the content. When container component will come to know that okay, all the contents are initialized within my component at the container, ng after content init. So let's go ahead and implement, and let's see what we can do using this. So I'll say implements after content init, and let's implement. So here I'll say ng after content init. But how to select the components? So here I want to actually select, let's say, uh, employee component. For example, let's add some properties here. So I'll say this is emp employee name, which is string and by default John. And let's display this employee name here. So we want to actually, let's say, access the employee component here, and then probably want to change some data or want to call some action or want to actually do something with employee component. Everything is
Mm-hmm.
possible. So how to
Mm-hmm.
access that particular component? First, you have to use something known as view child. Okay. So you can say view child, and then you can pass the component. So you can say, okay, this is employee component, and then you can give a name, sorry, not view child, content
Content
child.
child. There we go.
So we can give a property name. So I can say this is content,
Mm.
or we can just call it as employee, which is type of employee component. And let's
After
import view
content
child,
init,
sorry,
content
content child here.
child. Uh-huh.
And now we have this particular property. Of course, this is strict mode, so we have to put this question mark, sorry, exclamation mark. And now let's try to access. And before we move ahead, you might have this question. So do we
Mm-hmm.
have static true or false available here? The answer is no. In content child, you can actually only access those uh, everything which you have defining here inside the ng after content net. So there is no
Mm-hmm.
option of
Mm-hmm.
calling static true. The reason being, of course, because this component doesn't know what is supposed to be available here. It will be always passed by my parent component, and parent, it will take some time, right? So running through all the lifecycle, initializing its own content, then uh, going to child component, initializing that, and then coming to the content init lifecycle look. So it won't be available here. So we have to actually just go ahead and do whatever you want to do with this particular component or access this component here. So let's do console.log. this dot employee right now, and let's see our application. So here, just so you can see here. So you have access to line number TS. You can see the line number here, so which says okay, this is coming from container component, and then you have the EMP name, access to EMP name as well. Now, what I can do with this? So I can just do something like I can change this dot employee, and I can just access the, let's say, EMP name equals to from John to Rick, and it will be changed here. So you have the updated value available. So you can actually dynamically, sorry, you can actually access any component at runtime. So it's not like something which is you can access any component which is loaded via content or ng content. Then you can access that component using content child, and then you can do whatever you want to do. So the preferred way is always, of course, using input and output. You can make as much, or you can, sorry, the preferred way is to use input and output, but in some cases this is really useful, view child and view children, where you don't have much control on your component. You want to access those component inside your TypeScript file. You want to create the instance at that particular time, and then you want to assign some data, or you want to actually bind some data or call some function which is available on another component. So these are the some use cases where these two are really useful. Of course, both having different purposes, right? We saw what vchild does, and now we are talking about containers. So ng content, remember this tag. So in case you want to, you are not sure, okay, what will go here, you just want to provide a container where my I can replace any text in future. So you can actually add that inside the container. For example, one example which we can give is FAQs, right? So for what, in case you have a lot of clients, what you will be doing is, of course, the design will remain same. Probably the only thing will change is content. So what you can do is you can create a container component, uh, apply all the stylings you want to, and then just ask your designers to actually write the content for you. That's it. Or whoever is responsible for the content, they can provide the content. That's it, and that saves your time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on. And now ng after content in it, then there is a lifecycle loop called ng after content checked. So in case you want to actually make sure something needs to be done once one time your change section is has executed, you can use that, but probably rarely used. So you will not find many
Mm.
scenarios where that will be used. Which leaves us to our last lifecycle loop, which is really important,
Destroy.
because whenever something is created, it needs to be destroyed.
Ah, after view checked. Uh, hmm. After content checked. After, hmm. Content init checked. After viewing it. After view checked. I don't know. I would have liked to like actually see that demoed, right? Instead of like mentally just talked about. But okay, let's keep going.
Right? Of course, I mean everything. It's part of the life, right? So our component starts when it is initialized, and when it is destroyed, at that moment, our last life cycle loop, which you can see at the bottom, is ng on destroy, which on destroy. I mean, it itself says when I am getting destroyed. So this is the event which will be called when your component gets destroyed. But when does our component gets destroyed? Very important question. Let's go ahead and figure that out. So here,
After content init, but don't really get into after viewing it. We checked. That's
let's
just
take
kind
an
of
example of
spoken
this.
about.
So remember we had this hidden, right? So what I'm going to do is, now I'm going to use ng if on this. But what I will do is, whenever I click on hide rooms, we will hide the entire room list. Remember what ngif does? It removes the component from the DOM. So let's use it here. And let's implement on destroy. And I'll say this is console.log on destroy is called. And let's go back to our code. So I'll remove clear the console and let's click on toggle. So you have your component back. So this is the first time your component is actually loaded. Let's click on toggle again. And one second. So you have rooms component.ts, gif, hide rooms.
Some of my
I just
background noises.
implemented this on destroy at the wrong place because the component which is getting destroyed is not this one. It is the rooms list component. So this, and I'll just remove the on destroy from here because otherwise it will give us an error that we have not implemented the interfaces properly. Yep. Let's see. So we have this toggle button. Now the component is loaded, and let's clear the console and click on toggle again. And you can see now it says okay, on destroy is called and rooms list component, just to clear that okay, this is the correct line where this code is available. So what is happening here? Why on destroy is getting called? So remember, so whenever the DOM element gets removed, whenever a component gets removed from your DOM, at that moment the components on destroy lifecycle event will be called. Now what you can achieve using ng on destroy? So it's getting destroyed, so it should be okay, right? I mean, it's okay, it's getting destroyed, but it's really useful in case you have some memory consuming code and you want to free the memory. This is the code, this is the lifecycle loop where you can actually do that. Now what is the scenario for Angular? So in Angular, we will be using something called subscription in upcoming sessions, in upcoming videos.
Yes.
And using those subscription, you can actually subscribe to some data. Now once you subscribe to that data, that subscription become active. So somewhere you have to actually unsubscribe to those. That's where ng on destroy comes into the picture. Or you want to actually probably uh, let's say reset some data or do some logic when whenever your component is getting destroyed. You can go ahead and do that inside ng on destroy. For example, let's say you want to remove something from local storage or session storage whenever a component is getting destroyed. Yes, that's the lifecycle hook where you can hook into and call those code to clear your cache, clear your storage. Those are the things which can be done here. But most of the time, you will be using this lifecycle hook to unsubscribe to the data in future. So this is it about lifecycle hooks. Now let's move on to next topic.
Awesome sauce. All right, now we get into one of my favorite topics, dependency injection. Okay, great. So we're going to stop this video right here and restart the next recording for this section, which is about a little less than an hour long. All right, groovy. So that's it for this. And now on to double checking the audio. We're checking the audio, making sure the audio is good. All right. Until next time, nieces and nephews and nibblings of the world. And next time will be in approximately a minute or two. All right.